by streamlining RFX or RFP management on ServiceNow. So first of all, thank you for joining in for today's session. And before I begin the session for today or today's webinar, just a couple of housekeeping items which I'd like to go through is we will be keeping some of the polls during the session, and I would encourage everyone to please do take up those polls because it will help us to channelize the overall flow of today's discussion. Also, feel free to use the Q&A panel or the chat function if you have any questions, and we will be taking up those questions at the end of the session. And lastly, we are having a lot of updates on our social media, so don't get missed out and follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. Okay, so without further ado, let me introduce today's speaker, starting with Russell, who heads Key Account Management at Avenue, who is helping customers to get the best of contract management, project management, quote to cash, and source to pay solutions. With Russell, we have Vikram, who brings in 22 years of specialization in contract lifecycle management, obligation management, RFX management, AP automation, and CPQ. So with that, I'll hand it over to Russell to start the session. Russell, over to you.
Thanks, Maddie. Appreciate the introduction. And everybody, today's topic is on RFX management or RFP management. And I always find it's helpful to sort of discuss current events or trends in industry when doing a presentation like this. And I mean, I think the primary current event is the one that we've all become too familiar with. And, really since last year, we've been facing sort of a unprecedented series of events and borderline catastrophe situations that's created a whole lot of challenges for organizations to have to deal with. Specifically in 2020, it brought just unbelievable change to the world, and in a response to this, companies have been scrambling to digitize a lot of their processes. The workforce has been rapidly decentralized, and organizations are trying to find a way to operate, trying to find a way to enable their staff, and really trying to find a way to get by and survive in these just unprecedented times. And perhaps ironically, this catastrophic series of events has led to a lot of buying. And as we found in many areas during the last year, this rapid decentralization and this rapid digitization of so many business processes has really exposed a lot of problems. And purchasing, has become one of them. Purchasing is, one of those unique processes that's a company-wide endeavor. Every part of the business needs to buy things, right? And everybody gets involved in some way or other as the end users in the business are collaborating with purchasing, and purchasing is getting support from legal. And this has led to a lot of struggles, and this is traditionally a complicated process. The employees, they struggle to understand the company's procurement processes, right? Procurement is just, buying stuff, and employees often want to work directly with vendors. They want to build those relationships and identify the solutions that they need for themselves so that they can get what they need in a timely fashion. And when they do work with the purchasing staff, what we hear quite often is that they just don't have any visibility into what's going on. They don't have any idea of the status of their initiative. And meanwhile, on the other side of the chart, the tactical participants like legal and finance, they're getting burdened with this additional workload of having to manage all these new purchases and negotiating new contracts and adjusting budgets and forecasts. And when things aren't showing up as planned, or when things are taking longer than expected, or new things are landing on their plate, it's frustrating for them as well. And this leaves your purchasing and sourcing department kind of in the middle of this calamity, really holding the bag for everybody, which is, this is really an organization-wide challenge. Now, one thing that has happened in the past year, and long before that, in fact, is the emergence of the ServiceNow platform. Now, even during the chaotic events of the past year, ServiceNow has really come to the forefront as a global leader for organizations, especially on their digital transformation journeys. The ServiceNow platform specializes in any business process that involves a centralized group, procurement and purchasing in this case, who is supporting the entire enterprise with their services. Companies are harnessing ServiceNow as a platform to manage many business processes, and the workflow engine that ServiceNow provides, as well as their delivery model, is often deployed very widely in an organization. This enables your enterprise to rapidly roll out new solutions for different parts of the company, and to do so on a platform that is already being trusted by IT. That's going to be a critical part of our presentation today, is our relationship with the ServiceNow platform, and building these additional functions onto a platform that you're already using today, that your IT team has already vetted out and trusted, and more importantly, that you've already got a strategy in place for the ongoing administration and maintenance. So that's going to take us to the first poll question. Which part of the RFP process is most challenging? So you're going to have a multiple choice ticker show up on your screen. So I'll give everybody just a moment to respond to the RFP poll prompt, and then I'll give you the feedback in just a minute. All right, we are gathering data. Should be just a second, and we'll have some results for you. All right, and this is interesting here as I'm looking at the results. The number one option that was chosen was a lack of collaboration between internal stakeholders and evaluators. But there's a pretty even distribution across all of the options. Lack of supplier collaboration was actually the least selected option, but I find it interesting that everybody is essentially experiencing some of these challenges in one way or other, and these are pretty consistent across the board here. So we're going to talk about some of the solutions that we might have to these pain points right now, as a matter of fact. So since you're on this call, it's apparent that RFX management is something that you're at least interested in learning more about, at least interested in seeing how you might be able to optimize it. And let's just talk about some of the challenges that we see across the board in this area. Maybe some of these sound familiar to you. As we just discussed, struggling in collaboration with suppliers on one hand, but also struggling and collaborating with internal stakeholders on the other hand. And really, any business process that is foundationally built on a lot of communication internally and externally, that just opens the door for a lot of challenges, because it's hard to quantify that data, right? These communications are often, email based or phone call and meeting based. It's hard to gather that information and turning it into something meaningful. And that, that goes into just another challenge that we see a lot, collecting that feedback from vendors, consolidating it, and coming out with the top 2 or 3 suppliers. Again, taking a large sample of information, of data, and turning that into meaningful insight can be very time consuming, can be very challenging for an organization. One thing that we hear across the board is just spending too long on RFPs. It slows down the business's needs. It slows down the delivery of solution to address the business's needs. Lots of manual steps. This leads to poor experience for the field, poor experience for everybody involved. Really just generally difficult process in executing RFPs. And RFPs are such a critical element in making sure that you are delivering solutions to your business that meet their needs, and also that you're doing so in an economic fashion that's going to be good for the company from a long-term perspective. So we'll just talk about the framework of what makes a solution here. Businesses really need a modern solution that can support this digital transformation journey and support their purchasing and financing teams, and also support the end users across the enterprise by allowing to deliver solutions in a timely fashion. So this should connect the enterprise with digital workflows and enterprise-wide delivery. Everybody should be able to use the same tool to collaborate and communicate with one another. It should be a good user experience. It should integrate easily with the IT ecosystem that's already there today. This way, you don't have to take on another huge burden of finding a new team or a new group or bringing on new people to administer this platform. And Avenir is uniquely differentiated in the marketplace to help with a lot of these areas. Us being built on the ServiceNow platform, it puts us in a great position to deliver these sorts of applications, leveraging a solution that your enterprise is already comfortable with, leveraging really the framework, the engine of the ServiceNow platform, which can serve as just an outstanding foundational piece for the kind of solutions that we deliver. Specifically today, talking about RFP management. So let's get into some of the nuts and bolts of our RFX tool and what it's really designed to help you execute. It all starts off with the preparation of your RFP documents. This is usually interacting with business stakeholders and collecting requirements, inserting all of the details that you need to know about all of your new vendors, their company details, their financial details, etc. Really getting that document orchestrated and assembled in a timely fashion using libraries and templates so that you can quickly get that thing together and quickly publish it. This is sending this RFP out to the field, to the vendor community, to the different suppliers that you might want to be able to fulfill this particular sourcing event. Once the document is published, we leverage the ServiceNow platform as our collaboration center, help you collaborate with your internal team, help you collaborate with the vendors, help you consolidate all of the communication into a single place. So you have one place to go to manage all of this process. This is really, I think that's a critical consideration and a critical element for your sourcing and procurement professionals, just one place to go. All the vendor communications, all the internal stakeholder communications, document assembly, all happening from a single workstation. And then finally, one of the most challenging parts is helping you evaluate the feedback that you're getting from the vendor community, helping you take that information that's coming often in large Excel documents and put it together and do some scoring for you and offer some logic and some system capabilities that are going to make this process more efficient, help you get a quick high-level look at all of the different vendors on a score that's based on your weighted criteria. So you can quickly and easily make decisions, and most importantly, quickly and easily move forward in delivering solutions to your field. So RFPflow is available today on the ServiceNow App Store. If you're on this call, there's a pretty good chance that you're a ServiceNow customer. You probably found us that way in some capacity or other. So go to your ServiceNow App Store, have a look at Avenir. We have a couple of different products available today. RFPflow is one of them. And this really just goes to further highlight and further outline how quick and easy it is to roll us into your current IT infrastructure and get started delivering new solutions to your enterprise on a platform that you're already using. So without further ado, we're about 15 minutes into the presentation. I think it's time for us to stop the slides and actually get into the live software demonstration. So I'm going to stop my screen share and I will pass it over to Vikram, who's going to take over now for the software demo. Vikram, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Russell. And thanks for that excellent context and explanation of the RFX process. Let me share my screen. Give me a sec. All right, so I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Russell. So taking on from what Russell already explained, and that was really a great context that he said there. The one thing that I would like to re-emphasize, and that you all would agree, is that driving and managing an RFX process within your organization is not the easiest of things to manage, because for simple reason, there are just too many variables involved. And I'm going to talk more about some of the actual operational and tactical aspects. So for example, who is going to evaluate those responses when you send it out to vendors and when the responses come back? Who are the people who are going to evaluate the responses? Who would be the single point of contact for the vendors that are participating in the RFX process? Like if they have any questions, whom do they reach out to? How do you ensure to track key milestone dates, such as last day for questions, last day for receipt of bids, and so on? And above all, it's just that whole effort of putting together the right questionnaire that's right for that purpose. That itself could be daunting. And at the same time, making sure that you've put together a questionnaire with the right weightages that are allocated to all the sections of the questionnaire. It's not an easy task. It's quite challenging. And also, let's not forget what happens when a vendor responds. How do you track or how do you know that a vendor has submitted a response? You go to email, you open your inbox and look for it, or go somewhere and see whether a vendor has responded. Yeah, that's how you do today. Okay, that's manual. And the most important part, how do you score that RFX? Not just score, but how do you score it fast and efficiently with high accuracy? And these things become even more complex when you're doing, say, on an average, not one, but say 20 RFX at any given point in time. Now, these are very important factors that would play a key role that you would eventually make, right, in the choice of a vendor. And needless to say, that one choice or that one decision that you make, that would have an effect on everything downstream, including your ability to generate the forecasted revenue or the savings. And that's why we strongly believe that the RFX process, while it's highly underrated, it's among the most important business process that an organization can undertake. Because that decision, when you choose a vendor, is a defining moment. And so you need to have a very good software solution that helps you manage that process efficiently. And so let's take a look. It all begins with a sourcing event. So I am right now logged into Avenir's RFPflow. Today I'm logged in as Lisa Gill. She's a user. And this entire system, what you're seeing right now, while it's a very different user interface, it's built right on ServiceNow platforms. If you're familiar with ServiceNow, we leverage the same platform, it's the same engine, but it's a whole new UI that makes it a lot more, it feels better to use it. It's a lot more engaging. So currently, the screen that I'm on, you can see the list of all the sourcing events. What's a sourcing event? Basically, it represents the need for a solution, a product, or a service. Let's take a look at one. So here's a sourcing event that is for a SaaS solution to automate an HR process. There's a business owner, there's a category, so you can generate reports on whether the total RFP spends across various types of categories of purchases that you're doing or sourcing events that you're doing across your organization. And there's a budget that's associated with every sourcing event. Ultimately, the outcome is some kind of savings. That's the outcome that you're looking at from a sourcing event. Now, under a sourcing event, you could run different processes, different RFX processes. For example, like if you're just out in the market to assess different solutions or assess the market and its capabilities, you could just run an RFI under the sourcing event. But if you're looking to generate a short list of potential suppliers, you could run an expression of interest. But if there's a clear need of a procurement, you could run an RFP or an RFQ. All of these are fully supported by Avenir's RFPflow, and they all can be run under this single sourcing event. So you can fully track it under one umbrella sourcing event. And to make this process simple and efficient, so essentially we split this process into 3 different steps. That's what I'm going to show you today as we go along in this presentation. Step 1 is prepare and publish the RFX. How do we do that? Quick. Step 2, how do we receive the vendor submissions or the responses? Like how do we know that a vendor has responded? And lastly, scoring. How can the system help you in scoring a response fast and accurately, and also award the contract if it's an RFP, for example? So let's quickly understand how Avenir's RFP flow helps you do this. And we'll take the example of an RFP for this presentation. So under this sourcing event, I'm going to go ahead and create a new RFP. So when I click create RFP, it shows me a very simple, straight journey from create RFP. It's a 6-step journey all the way till I publish. Now, this is some initial header information about the RFP. For example, to which sourcing event it's tied to, what's the budget. All of this is actually, just pulled in from the sourcing event itself. The important thing here is let's just go ahead and select template. Like we support Word templates as well as Excel. So both are supported in the system. For this demonstration, I'm going to pick an Excel template. I'm going to hit save and next. And it's a pretty linear journey. It's a straightforward journey. So the next step is essentially putting together the team. Now, again, going back to the poll that was conducted a few minutes back, a lot of people said that, this collaboration across people and internal stakeholders, yes, it's always a challenge. And essentially to help with that, here's where you assign the team or allocate the team for this RFP right at the beginning. So everyone knows what their role is and what their job is as far as this particular RFP is concerned. So let's pick a user. Let's say Eileen is going to be an evaluator. And let's pick another user. Let's say Alyssa is going to be the single point of contact for the vendors. And I'll just pick one more. Let's say Carla is going to be the overall project manager for this RFP. Hit assign. So I've just assigned 3 people, a 3-member team to this RFP. After doing that, I just hit save and next. That takes me to the 3rd stage, which is that very important stage where you define your milestones. Now, every RFX project is going to have various milestones. Now, this is really easy to define milestones here. It's a really amazing user interface. Just click this plus sign, add a milestone. Let's say the supplier invitation you want to complete by the 30th of April. And you can click this bell icon to set a notification. Let's say you want a notification 5 days prior to the start date. That's it. Go back to the milestone. Add another milestone. Let's say you want the last day for questions submissions by vendor to be by the 12th of May. And you can again set another reminder here if you want. I'll just add another milestone here. So last day for supplier responses being received is, let's assume, let's take that to be like 31st of May. Okay, so I've just added 3 milestones real quick. You could add notifications, reminders by clicking this bell icon. For now, I'm going to hit save and next. Now we come to the most important part, which is where it takes a lot of time. So building the questionnaire. How do you quickly build that questionnaire? So the first thing you do is there are 3 steps. You want to first of all create sections. So let's say we want to have a general section. Now let's hit this plus sign to create another section, a financial sections. Okay, let's hit this plus sign to create another section. Let's say maintenance, and I'll just have one more section that's called warranty. Okay, so we just created 4 sections. Now, generally, every section would have some weightages to the overall, to the questions. Those weightages you can define from here. You can set those weightages here. But a quicker way to do that is if you just click finalize weightage, you can see all the sections in one go in one window and assign the weightages, like 20%, 30%, 30%, and 20%. So that's a total of 100% weightage. And those weightages get applied here. The last step is putting in the questions. So let's go ahead and put some questions in the general section. So you can, of course, add a new question, which means if you click here, you'll have to type it in yourself, like manually, but you can also choose questions from a question library. So if you've already maintained a good library, so let's say you could simply search questions from the general section and hit search. There you got all questions from general section. For now, I'm just going to select all, hit add, and those questions get added into general section. Similarly, I'm going to go and add questions in the finance section. So there are 3 questions here for finance. Then I'm going to add some more questions for the maintenance section. Once again, I'll quickly go into question library and search for maintenance questions. There you go. Add them in. And lastly, we got a warranty section here. So let's just go and add some questions here. So I'll search for warranty, hit search. There you go. Pick these 4 questions, add them in. So I've just prepared the questionnaire, 3 steps, the sections, the weightages, and the questions. At this point, I can just click save and next. Now this is where I now get to choose who would be the vendors to whom I want to publish this RFX to. So I got a list of all my vendors here. And by the way, so if there's someone new that you're trying to engage with, you could actually quickly create a new supplier that would appear in your potential vendors. These are, of course, not onboarded yet. But for now, let's go ahead and select an onboarded list of vendors. Let's say that I want to invite Infocus Systems. And let's say I'm going to invite Philips. OK, now with that, once again, I'm going to hit save and next. And now we are at the final stage, which is where I'm going to publish, which means this RFX, this RFP is going to go out to these vendors. So the vendor points of contacts are already selected automatically, as you can see there on the screen. And I just need to select an email template that saves me a lot of time. I don't need to fill out type in a subject line and a body line. OK. And of course, this is editable, so you can make changes if you want to. But at this point, I'll just go ahead and hit publish. And that's pretty much it. So 6 steps, and you can plan, prepare, assign a team, build your questionnaire, and send out this RFP, RFX, any kind of RFX to your chosen suppliers very easily and quickly. And so you can see now, this RFX number 206 is now in the published state. So at this point, essentially, this is going to go out to the suppliers. The supplier will receive an email. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So I've got this email. So this is what it looks like. So I'm a supplier. It says, Dear Vikram. Okay, so here's the RFP Excel sheet that's attached. Okay, and I need to fill this and submit it back to where it came from. So let's take a look. Let me open this Excel sheet. So I'm doing this as a supplier who's been invited to participate in this RFP. Let me just zoom that out a little bit. Okay, there you go. Here are the questions and the sections: the general section, the financial section, the maintenance section, and the warranty section. Okay, and here are the questions. Now, for now, just for the for this presentation, so that we actually speed it up, I'm just going to copy and paste the questions in the response, just to make that process quick. There you go. Take these. Copy these and paste them in here. And I copy these and just paste them in here. So kind of I'm simulating that the vendor is filling in the response to these questions. Okay. At this point, what the vendor does is saves this file. So there's really no disruption for the vendor. The vendor does exactly the same thing that they've been doing all the time. Why is it read only? Save as. Okay, browse. Let me save it somewhere here. Okay, there you go. So this is saved. And now what the vendor does is simply hits reply to this email. And I'll just remove those email addresses, insert and attach this file. Okay, and hit send. So at this point, the supplier has filled out the information sheet and has sent it back to you by email. Let's see what happens in Avenir. So here's another user, Eileen, who's already logged into the system. And she's looking at this RFP, CCTV surveillance and systems. She can see that two vendors were invited. Here are those 2 vendors. And the status of both the vendors is in invitation sent. right now. And what she can also see is that at the moment, no bids have been received. It shows 0 bids received, 0 out of 2. And if she wants to see what kind of activity or collaboration has happened with the supplier, she can click that supplier and see the email activity here. And she can also click this supplier and again see the email activity there. Okay. But the important thing here, if you now see what's changed on your screen, is for InFocus system, it shows response received. Do you remember that just a while back, both of these were in the invitation sent status? Now we see that InFocus system, the response has been received. And we also see that in the bids received section here, it now shows 1 bid received. So 1 out of 2 has been received. So like I said, this is how Avenir helps you automatically track whether a vendor has responded with a bid or not. It's really as simple as that. And at the same time, well, do you really need to log in to know that the response is received? No, because you'll also get notified by an email that a response has been received. That email looks something like this. Of course, these emails are configurable, customizable, the language can be configured, so on. But essentially, there will be an email notification as well that you would receive that will let you know that the response has come in. And now that the response has come in, what Eileen needs to do is, she's an evaluator, so she needs to evaluate, or in other words, score the response that has been received. Now, how does she do that? It's very simple. All she does is clicks, and clicks on this button here, start scoring. So this is the response received, and this is the score. You just click score, and you'll get to see, she gets to see all the sections with all the questions. Right now, she sees that none of the questions have been evaluated. So there are 5 questions here, 3 questions here, 3 here, 4 here, and none of them have been evaluated. So to evaluate, she goes section by section. So here's the question, click, here's the answer. Here's the question, click, here's the answer. Here's the question, click, here's the answer. And all she does is goes ahead and hits the score, provides a score. So let's say 10, 10, 8, 8, 7. So that's the general section done. Now she goes into the financial section. So there are 3 questions here, 6, 6, 8. And so then she goes to the maintenance section, 5, 7, 4. And the last section here, which is the warranty section, she says gives a 8, 8, and a 7, and a 5. So with that, she's completed the scoring of all the questions across all the sections. At this point, she just saves and submits. And now, when we go back to that RFP, we will see that Avenir has computed an overall score based on the scores provided by the evaluator to those individual questions. In this case, it's 69.44. Obviously, this is the same process that Eileen would follow when Philips sends back their response as well. And likewise for all of the vendors, if there were more vendors here. And at the end of it, those scores can be evaluated. You can compare those scores. In fact, you can even compare questions and the responses across 2 vendors side by side. We have those capabilities as well. And finally, when you decide to award the contract, you could actually award the contract using, we also have a contract lifecycle management solution that fits nicely and neatly with Avenir's RFPflow. And so with that, what you get is a complete end-to-end holistic sourcing management and a contract management solution. So with that, we just saw 3 quick steps, how you can prepare and publish your RFP, how you know in an automated way that a response has come in from a supplier or from a vendor, and how you can use Avenir's RFPflow to quickly score a response that's been received from the supplier. I hope this was helpful. With that, I'm going to now hand it over back to Russell.
Thanks, Vikram. Appreciate the demonstration. I will just go ahead and share my screen. We'll get into the the closing discussions, and then also take any Q&A. So just as a quick recap from the demonstration, right? What are the things that we're really attacking here with the solution? Communicating with your stakeholders, assembling RFP documents and publishing them to your vendors, communicating with your vendors, and then helping you score those responses, all from a single cockpit, all from a single system of entry and system of execution built on the ServiceNow platform. So if you're asking yourself now, I wonder how much this stuff costs, how do we get started? Let's talk about that. We are actually doing a promo for the rest of the year, a quick start implementation for RFPflow. So if this is something that's been interesting to you, something that looks like it could be of value, you want to learn more about it, dig deeper into the functionality, let's get in touch. This is going to include unlimited buyers and collaborators and vendor engagement. All of the users that you need to use this platform come included at a single flat fee. No setup cost, everything gets up and running in just a couple of weeks as opposed to months. And this is consumption-based pricing, right? So you're only really paying for what you need. You're only really paying for the amount of RFPs that you're doing year over year. We would love to hear from you, get some feedback about the presentation. We would love to discuss how we can get you up and running on this. I invite everybody to reach out to us. So let's have a conversation about this. We'll be sending these slides out after the presentation. So please feel free to touch base. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Additionally, if you go to our website, we have what's called RFP Template Central. So this is a process that's near and dear to you and something that you're regularly involved in. You can go to our website and download over 50 free RFP templates that cover a variety of topics throughout the enterprise. This is something that is very popular. We have people every day from across the world coming in and downloading these RFP templates. I know they're sold at quite a pricey price tag in other places. You can come to our website and get them for free. So we do invite you to swing by and check them out if this is something that you think might be useful. And of course, while you're there, we also invite you to sign up to our monthly newsletter, Procure Pulse. We are a procurement solution company, so we like to keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on across the industries, with current events, with industry trends. Our monthly newsletter is not sales material. It's really just a roundup of some things that we think might be relevant to procurement professionals who are engaged with us in some capacity or other. So come by. Check out the free RFP templates, download them if you've got a big sourcing event coming up, sign up for the newsletter, get in touch with us. We love to get engaged with us. We'd like to hear your feedback about this presentation as well. So with that, let's just take a minute to address any questions. I think we've got a couple of minutes left on the presentation time. So Maddie, I'll turn it back over to you to proctor the questions.
Yeah, so one of the questions which I think Vikram is answering is, can you import spreadsheets, for example, product list and documents like security questionnaires in RFPflow?
Yeah, and I was just answering that question. So yes, we can, and we can import your Excel sheets into our question library. Absolutely possible. Okay. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, so if that answers your question, please use the chat window. Okay. Second question which we have is, can we add approval workflows in the process?
Yes, absolutely. And we leverage the ServiceNow platform for doing that. Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Next question is it possible to assign authorization to team members?
Can you please repeat that question for me, please?
So the question is it possible to assign authorization to team members?
So is that from perspective of what role they play within that RFP project, or in terms of access control? Yes. So yes, both are possible, whether it's access control or whether it's what role they play, whether they're an evaluator or a RFP project manager. Yes, absolutely. You can assign those kind of authorizations. Of course, I'd like to know this a little more in detail, but yeah, we can.
Okay. Okay. The next question which we have is there an intake form to capture the stakeholder needs?
Yeah, a needs assessment form. Yeah, that's something we can configure.
Okay. Okay.
And just on that note, as it relates to approval workflows and intake forms, remember, all of this is built on the ServiceNow platform. So approval processes and intake request forms, these are all core really just foundational elements of the ServiceNow platform, which we can absolutely leverage as a part of this solution as well, covering all of the needs for your company. And we had another question, will this result in additional costs from ServiceNow? Answer to that is no. So for Avenir, we're a ISV, an independent software vendor. We're a partner of ServiceNow. So for our solutions, you would contract directly with us, and there won't be any requisite ServiceNow needs. You don't have to have anything set up. It's not going to cost you any more money from the ServiceNow perspective to use our solutions.
Okay.
Another
question.
Oh, go ahead, Matty. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So is the contract management tool similar to the ServiceNow contract management module?
Yeah.
So that's a great question. Oh, you go, Vikram.
No problem, Russell. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So our contract lifecycle management tool is built on ServiceNow, just like this RFP tool. So if you remember the vendor list that we saw as we were selecting potential suppliers for the RFP, that's the same ServiceNow vendor list that's already there as a part of, say, the IT asset management package, for instance. Additionally, our contract management tool is using that same vendor list. It's also contract table on the ServiceNow platform. It's a scoped application that extends that contract table into an enterprise CLM solution. This is definitely a conversation we would love to have in more detail, Kenneth. The cost of our CLM tool is a follow-up question. We license that per user per month. Kenneth, I would advise, why don't we have a quick chat offline about this, and we can discuss what your needs and expectations are in a little bit more detail.
Okay. There is one more question about assigning weightage. So can we assign weightage per question per section?
Yeah, generally you would want to assign a question weightage to a section, but if you want to assign a weightage to a question, yes, absolutely, that's possible.
Okay, so I'll just give it a couple of more seconds. There are no yet. Yeah. Another question is, can vendor update the response post submission when evaluation is still pending?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if the vendor wants to send in a different response, and if the date is still not gone, they could just go ahead and send out just like how you saw today in the presentation. They could just send out another response on that same email, and every time that they send that email back, Avenir will basically capture that as the latest response. So yeah, absolutely, they can in that sense update their response as well.
Okay, thank you for that, Vikram. Another question which we have is, are customers integrating the beginning of the RFX workflow with procurement tools? Okay, let me rephrase that question. I don't know, is it from ServiceNow angle, but basically, can we integrate the RFX workflow with procurement tools? That is the question which is wrong.
Yeah, and see, for example, the vendor list that you saw today in the presentation, that vendor list is likely to come from your procurement or vendor management system, which is likely to be a separate solution. I mean, for example, if you use ServiceNow as your source of truth for vendors, then that's great. But it's very likely that you're using some other system as your as a system for managing all your vendor information. And in that case, we can build an integration where we can bring in supplier information from that system into Avenir's RFPflow, and that can be something even as simple as simply a batch CSV down up and an upload. I mean, it really depends upon what your use case is over there, how frequently you want that information to flow in. But yeah, absolutely. Our solutions are designed to work and talk with all your other systems upstream and downstream in your digital landscape.
Okay, thank you, Vikram. Next question is, is so they have their vendor records in NetSuite. So is it possible to integrate with NetSuite because they don't know whether they have vendor records stored in ServiceNow?
So in general, I mean, I'd say that yes, we'll have to, of course, we'd like to understand that, and I'd like to really talk to you more in detail about, how that would work. But we integrate with most of the industry standard applications that are out there today, whether it's NetSuite or SAP, Oracle, things like using standard industry standard connectors and middlewares. Offline mechanisms such as CSV files and batch uploads. So we use all of these standard techniques for integrating our solution with all the other solutions out there. So definitely we should be able to integrate with NetSuite as well. That's not a problem.
Okay, thank you. The next question which we have is, could the RFPflow solution pull in product or service information from the purchase requisition into the bid?
Yeah, so again, that's basically a question around integration. So we need to first understand which system you use, where do you store all your create and store your purchase requisitions, and if we can build that integration channel, and so yes, in that case we can bring in product and service information from your requisitions into Avenue's RFPflow. And essentially, I mean, the tool is essentially designed to actually fit into that ecosystem, so because we already understand that, today organizations are already using certain systems for storing vendors. They're using certain systems like maybe ERPs for their purchase requisition and purchase orders and things like that. And so the way we've designed a solution is that it's an open channel, so we can pull in information from all of these different systems and then help you drive that RFX process, and of course, and also the contracting process downstream further.
And to that note, especially with the latest releases in Quebec, ServiceNow's latest upgrade, we're seeing a lot of organizations start to centralize those procurement processes like purchase requisitions and purchase orders on the ServiceNow platform. And if that's a part of your vision or your roadmap, that really just simplifies the journey as it might relate to leveraging Avenir, because everything is then built on the exact same platform, leveraging the same data model, wouldn't even require need for external integration into other platforms. So to, I guess, simplify, if you're using other systems like NetSuite, for instance, for purchase requisitions, there is an integration path that we could discuss with you. We'd like to take that offline in more detail. If you're thinking about putting these things in ServiceNow, then it's all going to be built on the same platform anyway and can just be tied together within the data model.
Great, thank you. The next question which we have is, can we assign a time limit for submitting the responses, vendor responses?
Yes, we can. We can assign a time limit, and if that time limit has passed, then the submissions that come in after that through email, we can actually we can flag those, and then you can decide whether you want to accept those or you want to kind of reject those. But yeah, absolutely, yes.
Okay. So just giving a couple of more seconds.
And there is one more question, Maddie, probably this is for you. Will you have other Zoom meetings to talk about your other products, such as invoice flow and obligation flow?
Yeah, so we do conduct monthly webinars focused on our products. So I would advise you to visit our website, and we will be sending out mailers and also request you to sign up for our newsletter, because from there you will get all the information about our upcoming Zoom webinars and product webinars. But if you're interested and if you would like to have a personalized demo, yeah, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to, give you a product walkthrough, a demonstration about other source to pay capabilities which our products deliver, such as invoice flow and obligation flow.
And we do have a library of all of our past webinars as well. So you can go there right now and get self-service access on demand to recent webinars covering other products. Definitely happy to have personalized discussions though, and discuss your specific needs and specific vision.
Yeah, and I've just sent the link to our recent webinars, wherein you will get all the details. Okay. Yeah, I got our questions coming in. So how do suppliers contact you if they have any challenges responding to the RFP.
Russell, you want to answer this question?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just like normal email-based correspondence, and any emails that are related to an RFP that has been published are going to be collected and gathered in the RFP console on the application. So we probably want to get a bit more information on what challenges responding to an RFP actually entails. But as a general rule, we try not to force your third parties to change their behavior. So today you send them an RFP via email and they communicate via email. We can replicate that within our system, so they would continue to be able to communicate via email. A follow-up question to that: what is the turnaround time for you to respond for technical issues? I'm not sure if that's a question for Avenir, like our turnaround time for our customers for their technical issues. Very fast would be the answer if that is the question. Perhaps that's a good one we can take offline though. Isha, feel free to reach out to us and we can get a better understanding of what you're asking about and give you a more detailed response.
Okay, so I'll just give it a couple of seconds. If there are any new questions, this is the right time. Yeah, we got one more. Yeah, Russell, would you like to take it up?
So often there is a Q&A period, and then the buyer sends all vendors consolidated list of the questions that have been answered. Do we have that capability? Vikram, why don't you take that one? Can you please, sir?
Yes, absolutely. So yes, there is a Q&A period. Yeah, that's when all the different vendors are putting their questions together, and then there has to be a person who responds to that. And so for that, when we define the team structure for the RFP, you also associate a person who's going to be responsible for managing, for basically responding to those questions. That was a single point of contact. If you remember, I had added a single point of contact to the team, and those questions can come in to the same published email IDs. It will automatically, flag to the point of contact because the point of contact has been assigned, and then the point of contact has to essentially answer all those questions and consolidate that and send it out to the different suppliers. And she can also, that list of answers that she's consolidated can be stored as an additional attachment with that same RFP as well, so that it can be circulated, as and when required.
Okay, just give it a couple of more seconds. Okay, so I think there are no further questions. So thank you everyone for taking out your time, and I hope you enjoyed and learned new things about what can you do and how you can maximize your ServiceNow investment with Avenir. So thank you, Vikram, thank you, Russell, and thank you everyone for joining in today.
Yep, thank you very much for spending some time with us this morning. Very much appreciated, everybody. Have a great day, and we hope to hear from all of you.
Thank you very much.